You're listening to MinerTalk on demand exclusively on 600 ESPN El Paso. Stay up to date with MinerTalk by downloading the free 600 ESPN El Paso mobile app. All right, I am back. MinerTalk is here, presented by the Oscar Arieta Agency. Big shout out to the Oscar Arieta Agency. Saw Ignacio today, the marketing manager out there from the Oscar Arieta Agency. They are presenting the Hometown Hero Award. They were actually the presenting sponsors at yesterday's UTEP women's basketball game between the Miners and the Aggies. And the Oscar Arieta Agency can help you out when it comes to your home, your auto, your life insurance, all your insurance needs. Trust the Oscar Arieta Agency and check them out online. OscarArietaAgency.com. And by the way, I just mentioned the Hometown Hero Award. If you know somebody who could be nominated to be the next Hometown Hero for the Oscar Arieta Agency, fill out the nomination form online, OscarArietaAgency.com, and you can find all of that information. Well, it's great to be back. First off, it was great to see people out at the Haskins Center today. Great to be back at the District West earlier today, 3233 North Mesa. Great to see Sal Montes. Great to hang out with Jason Williams. Great to see UTEP Zay. Alberto Reta is in the house as well. We've got a packed group here with us today. And man, I feel like we were the only ones at the Don Haskins Center today, right, guys? I mean, there was absolutely no one there. Miners won 74-69. I mean, I have so many thoughts on this game, and I have so many thoughts on the two games that I missed, the Seattle game and the NMSU game, so I don't really even know where to begin. But Sal, thank you so much for holding down the fort, and thank you for all the work that you did, Zay did, Alberto did, Michael Plundo did during this past week. Really appreciate all of that. I'm just shocked that we're at this point right here, Sal, after the Miners won those two games in the Sun Bowl Invitational, won the championship. I thought they turned a corner. And then they completely fell flat against Seattle. And then the New Mexico State game, all right, you could chalk it up to a rivalry. Sure, I won't take it that way. I see it what it was. It was a road game for the Miners. It was another game on the road in a heated environment, and they couldn't come through. In fact, they got, call it what it is. They lost by double digits in that game, and the Miners are on, a 12-game losing streak in the Pan Am Center when they play the Aggies on the road? Yeah, that's not a good thing right there, and this was the year when they were supposed to snap that streak. So Miners are in a really weird point right now. They eked out the victory today. They had 15 lead changes in this game. 9 times this game was tied. It was just back and forth with a team in Chicago State, which is 7-14 going into this matchup. And you think to yourself, well, this is a 10-point game for the Miners. They've got to come back. They've got to get right. This is their get-right game. Mix it up with all the rotations, which is what they did. Throw out a lot of different combinations, which is what they did, and get some scoring from your team, which is what they got. They got some good scoring from their group, but they couldn't play defense. I mean, Chicago State shot, nearly 60% throughout the game. They shot 45% from beyond the arc, and they zoned UTEP, so defensively they hung in. They created, 18 turnovers? They had 27 turnovers of their own. There's no game you're going to win in college basketball at the Division I level if you almost have 30 turnovers, Sal. So for UTEP, if you want to get excited about this one, I don't know. I'm just not on that same level right there. I'm at this level right now where I want to see more from this team. I like the fact that David Terrell, Trey Horton shined in this one, and you got more minutes from Elijah Jones. But as far as positives, that's probably it as far as what you could take away from this matchup right here. Miners eking out a victory. At the 9-minute mark point, they had a lead. They relinquished that lead all the way up until there was 90 seconds left in this one. David Terrell able to capitalize on a layup off a loose ball turnover. Then Corey Camper able to get a steal and score. Miners were up at that point. I think it was 68-65, and they never looked back after holding on to an early lead. But Sal, that's where we start things off here today, and I'm not impressed. That's where I'm at.
You know what? I wouldn't say I'm not impressed, but I'm not disappointed either. I think for me, I've kind of seen the ceiling for this team, and I've seen what the floor is, and they've been on the floor a lot more than the ceiling. There's been a lot of games that they haven't looked that impressive, and for them to finally win after what's been a very tough stretch, that's good for you. But in all reality, I still can't see this team being, top half of Conference USA. If we were to put it in fourths, I think they would be in that last fourth, so to speak, for spots in Conference USA. So it's a very Jekyll and Hyde bunch, but I don't know if we're going to get that good spot as often as we'd hoped, if we're being honest.
I agree with you there, Sal. And by the way, I want to open up the phone lines, 915-505-6009. I assume it will be a light calling day for the people out there here on Miner Talk, but I have a couple segments I want to play out. I want to do another In and Out segment, America's, or I should just say Miner Talk listeners' favorite segment, In and Out. And I want to do a little, recap when it comes to UTEP women's basketball, UTEP football recruiting. But let's kick things off and welcome on one of our featured guests today. He's Jason Williams. He's joined us plenty of times here on the show, friend of the program, good friend of ours, and he joins us today to just talk about this UTEP game in itself. Jason hasn't been to too many games in person, but this one he got to see from start to finish, really got to evaluate a lot of things. Jason, this is not the one to get excited about if you're a Miner fan, right? I mean, this is one where there was a lot of frustrations on both sides, both for UTEP and Chicago State. It was a frustrating games on both ends.
Yeah, for me, first start with the atmosphere, I never seen the atmosphere so quiet and to start the game, and not a lot of people at the games. But as far as the game, I think UTEP, they got better on offense tonight. That's been their struggle all year, but the defense took a step backwards. That was the biggest point of the game for me, their defense. They gave up too many easy layups. It seemed like every loose ball or touch ball would wind up in Chicago State hand, and they would get opportunities for layups and stuff also.
What are you seeing on the glass right now? The rebounding is just, look, if you wanted to just boil it down, you just tell me, hey, Adrian, what are you saying? Obviously, UTEP's not going to be a better rebounding team than their opponents if they're playing pretty much four guards on every possession. But I felt like last year they had a lot of smaller lineups as well, and they rebounded a little bit more efficiently than they are right now in this current stretch. What are you seeing on the glass?
Today I saw that the guys had to rotate a lot to help because they was driving a lot one-on-one. They was getting to the paint. So the goal is you got to help the helper. So those guys got to rotate when that big or whoever rotate to help that guy, and that's how they was getting a lot of those offensive rebounds off the helper situations. When the big went to help, nobody was helping him, or if it was a guard went to help, nobody helped him, and that's who man kept getting the rebound. I think that's something they can fix once they watch film and practice. But for me, I think that was the biggest reason they didn't get a lot of offensive rebounds. And of course, if your big man only get one rebound and it's an offensive rebound, it's going to be a hard game because you're giving up a lot of second chance points.
Let's stick with the big man for a second, because the big man on this team, I think a lot of Miner fans have criticized guys at different points. They've questioned Kevin Kalu throughout his career here at UTEP, whether good or bad. Maybe sometimes people are in and they like his hustle. Sometimes they're just like, what is he doing there on the floor? And then Calvin Solomon, his minutes are diminishing right now in front of our eyes. He played 14 today, had 3 shot attempts, but it's not the preseason All-Conference USA Calvin Solomon that you're expecting. He's not as productive as he was last year, not as productive as he was to start off the season. What are you seeing from the bigs right now? It seems like, I'm not saying they've abandoned the bigs, but they've changed their philosophy so much that they are going to sell out on going small or nothing. And we saw a little bit more of Elijah Jones today, but still not enough.
Yeah, I think it's hard to find bigs, Coach, he has Kalu. For me, you have to give him the opportunities also. He's posting up strong. There's times he's wide open, and they just don't give it to him. And for him to get his teammates' trust, he has to make those opportunities when they do pass it to him, which he had like 2 tonight in the second half with 3 minutes left. They found him and he missed a layup. So those things can kind of make your teammates not want to throw it to you. But I think also they need to just try to give it to him sometimes when he got those mismatches, because that'll open the game up for the guards. And as far as Solomon tonight, I just think he looked a little slow to me. And not as athletic like everybody else and at the same speed as everybody else on the court. I don't know if he's hurt or if that's just the way he play. You know, I haven't watched many games, but that's how it looks to me.
Yeah, I just don't get it, man, because we've seen so much different from Calvin Solomon over the past years. But either way, just really interesting thoughts there. Hey, let's bring on another member of our broadcast team. It's UTEP Zay, who was also at the game tonight. He was shooting, or today, I should say, he was shooting, and he was also grabbing some interviews at the end of it. Zay, what did you hear from head coach Joe Golding afterward? Because to the broadcast team, he was very complimentary of the freshman players, and understandably so. I mean, give them their flowers. I'm very impressed with David Terrell. I'm very impressed with what we've seen over the past stretch, or just the past day, I would say, from Trey Horton. He was the best offensive player in the first half by far for the Miners and gave him a real spark. What did you hear from head coach Joe Golding afterward? What was the mood like?
Yeah, Joe, he looked very excited, looked very upbeat, getting a win, and he talked about David Terrell. He got 30 minutes. He did not come off the bench in the second half, and he said that's something we want to continue to do. They want to get David Terrell on the court as well as Trey Horton, and he talked about kind of shifting, pivoting away from the lineups that they had previously. He talked about they wanted to get shooters out there, spacing, and that forced them to go small. That's why you didn't see a lot of Calvin Solomon at times, right? You didn't see a lot of Elijah Jones. And, obviously today at work, they shot very well from three, something we haven't seen from this team. So, no one really asked if that's something that they'll plan on doing going forward, but I'd expect it. He did say that they're going to take a hit defensively, which we saw as well today when you have guys like Trey Horton on the court. But hey, if that's the risk you're willing to take, well then might as well.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying there, and I like the point about the lineups. If things aren't working, Jason, I mean, maybe it is time to pivot. And Sal, we've talked about smaller lineups in the past. Maybe this is the year where they just really go all in on the smaller lineup approach, and we don't see two bigs on the floor at the same time.
Yeah, and for a variety of reasons, bigs have been kind of unreliable in the past, whether it be just not being quick enough to get to a spot, they're inefficient on offense, or they turn it over. Free throw. There's a lot of things, right? But I think with Coach Golding, his bread and butter, we know that it's the defense. It's not working out, but it's a former guard himself, so his game is tailored more towards a guard in the first place. I think just let the dogs loose, man.
There you go. Hey, our telephone number, 915-505-6009. Let's pause 10 seconds for station identification. You're listening to Miner Talk, presented by the Oscar Arieta Agency. More in a moment here on 600 ESPN El Paso. All right, Miner Talk continues here, presented by the Oscar Arieta Agency. We'll get to our player of the game thanks to Timothy Cantrell Realty, and we'll get to our hot hand of the game brought to you by Wind Supply El Paso as well. But before we do that, let's continue with some more instant reaction in-game analysis after this one. Our telephone number, if you'd like to weigh in on any of this, 915-505-6009. Alberto Ureta, our fourth member of a packed crowd here on Miner Talk. Love it. Alberto, you tell me, what did you notice today from the Miners rotation-wise? What did you like? And then on the flip side, what did you not like from this group today?
Well, just to keep it kind of short, because it's the same thing with the Miners every week, well, they're really relying, like I thought they would, on their younger guys, and they're trying to develop them before they get deeper into conference. And I was, just really disappointed with Calvin Solomon. Those missed layups late in the game to when the Miners are down. Those are crucial points left on the board. So. Yeah, I'm just disappointed, and it's about to get a lot rougher, I think, for the Miners going into conference play.
Well, I don't know how. So, look, here's how I look at Conference USA. The Miners should have their opportunities, right? On paper, they should have their opportunities to beat the likes of Florida International, the likes of La Tech, or a Middle Tennessee, or a Sam Houston State, or like we thought about on Thursday, at least some light or some chance to try to beat New Mexico State on the road for the first time in 12 tries. Like, this was the year, right? If there was ever going to be a year in a transition season like this season for the Miners, they should be competitive in Conference USA. They've got a senior, a grad transfer in Zid Powell. They've got a senior in Tay Hardy, who is a preseason all-conference guy, and a preseason all-conference guy in Calvin Solomon. No, I'm not counting this team completely out, but I don't know. I'm a little concerned. I have a lot of red flags around this team right now, and as the Conference USA season really kicks off and starts off, I mean, I'll bring you back in on this, Jason. How much of a grind is it if you're not playing well in Conference USA and you're talking about the month of February and that becomes a grind right before a conference tournament? This is the time when you want to be peaking. You want to be playing your best, not just motivated, not just, confident. You want to be actually playing your best basketball, which right now the Miners are still trying to find out who they are.
Yeah, like you say, the good thing about college basketball is 3 seasons, right? So you always have a chance to get better.
There's non-conference, conference,
and then you can still carry over into getting better at the end of conference, so you can have that run in a conference tournament.
Sure,
but definitely, I will want to start the conference off with wins. Before you get to those tough road games that you're gonna have to play in sometime in the month of January and February. Those tough road conference games that you're gonna have back to back. So
how tough is it, right? Because Conference USA is so spread out. So as a player who did it before, how tough are these road games?
It's very tough. It's a lot more spread it out than when I played, because there's a lot of teams everywhere now. But it'll be tough, for the kids to travel far, get off the bus, have to do all that different stuff and go and play games. But at the end of the day, this is what they signed up for. They want to be professional. So, travel is no excuse. There's no excuse when you traveling road games. You just got to go there and be prepared the best that you can and go out and put it all on the court.
Okay, worst travel location for you: Tulsa, Hawaii, La Tech. What was the worst one? Just like travel, everything you guys had to do, conference, and all of that kind of stuff.
I would probably say La Tech.
Or am I getting it wrong? Like, is there another group out there?
I'd
like
probably
Memphis?
say La Tech probably was the one of the travels, because we had to drive from Dallas.
Right.
I think we fly in from Dallas and drive to Monroe.
Ugh.
So it's about 2-3 hours from there. So
yeah, and now they go something like Baton Rouge or New Orleans, and then they drive into Murfreesboro, or whatever, bus into that. So yeah, it seems like not the best road trip whatsoever. That's a good one right there. Hey, our telephone number 915-505-6009 as we get things started here. Miners win 74-69. We're kind of talking. I mean, our tone sounds like the walls are really crashing down and everything is they should be panicking. And I guess the Joe Golding quote today was, "Don't panic, they're pivoting right here," which is an interesting philosophy in itself, Zay, because this team right here, I guess they're acknowledging things aren't working, or they didn't work up to this point, and so they really have to pivot up to what's next, what's going to happen in the future for this group, because if they stay the same, if they stay stagnant on how their approach really was before this game, or really before the past couple weeks, then things aren't going to change, and they're going to actually get worse.
Yeah, you could tell that this team, they needed to make some adjustments, right? Because what we saw on Thursday, right, you could say it was a rivalry game, this and the third, but they just didn't play good. They didn't play good at all. They struggled. They struggled defensively. They struggled offensively. They just struggled all in all. So you were going to need to make some changes, and he said it perfectly. Coach Joe Golding said it perfectly. It's a slight change. It's a pivot. It's not a huge 180. We're not freaking out. The sky isn't falling, right? We just had to make some slight changes, and we saw those, go into effect today.
Yeah, and I think that the biggest change, and they're going to commit to it, it seems like, and that is going smaller, a smaller approach moving forward for this UTEP basketball team. This is what we're going to do next. What we're going to do is we're going to ask Jason Williams for his final thoughts. We appreciate him for stopping by today. We're going to take a break. We're going to do an in or out segment to talk player by player. I've got other storylines to get to as well. I'm not expecting a lot of phone calls today, so we'll probably save it for next week on the road against FIU. for the full-blown Miner Talk per usual. But Jason, the Miners have FIU on the road next week. From what you saw today, what are some of the biggest changes you need to see from the Miners moving forward in order to just have some more success? It just feels like, getting a win is good for this team. If they would have lost today, we're talking about pushing the panic button in a real way. But at the same point, Miners are not where they need to be, and I think that there's still time to turn around, turn the corner. This is still the team that beat UC Santa Barbara at home, won the Sun Bowl Invitational at home in back-to-back matchups. What do you want to see from this team moving forward?
I want to see them continue to compete. I think they could play a little harder. They could talk more on the court as a team. Sometimes you hear guys when they playing. I don't hear that from those guys. I don't hear a lot of that. And they have to cut out the stupid turnovers. That's the main thing. I think that's what really kept the other team in the game, unforced turnovers. The team didn't force them to turn the ball over, and they was making stupid passes, not reading the game in that way. I think if they can cut the turnovers, and I think Coach maybe found like you say, he went small tonight, so maybe he found something that's going to help the offense. But now you have to find something that's going to help you on defense because you don't have the size.
Good point. Yeah,
so
I like it.
That's the real thing. Maybe he found something good tonight on offense, but now it's okay. Now we got to fix this problem on defense.
And maybe that's good for UTEP because this coaching staff will like that. Hey, give me a team that is giving me more on offense, and we'll coach them up defensively. That's usually how UTEP plays. Jason, always appreciate you stopping by. Before we let you go, plug your coaching and everything that you're doing right now. Let people know if they've got a young one out there, they want to get their kids some training for basketball, what they need to do in order to contact you.
Hello. Well, I have a training gym. I train kids daily in basketball, as far as the skill wise, and build them up mentally to whatever type of basketball player or whatever they want to be in life. Through basketball, I always feel it teaches you how to work hard for something, even if some kids might not go pro or go college. It's teaching you how to work hard. Also, I have youth teams. If anybody looking for teams from fourth grade to high school teams, as we gearing up for travel season, as we try to get more competitive so we can represent El Paso out of town and help the kids get to college and the things that they want to do. If you guys interested, you can find me on Facebook or Instagram, Jason Williams Basketball Academy.
Easy. Hey, how's the talent here in El Paso? How you like it?
I think
we're getting better?
We're getting better. The 10th grade on down, you have some good players. But like I say, I just think it's a lot of youth teams.
Yeah.
And they're not developing the kids up right here.
Okay. I like it. Okay, so you're trying to do something different here.
Trying to do something different, yes.
Love it, man. Hey, Jason Williams, always appreciate you stopping by. Thanks again for joining us here on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys for having me.
UTEP legend Jason Williams joining us here on the show. Let's do this. Let's take a timeout right now. When we come back, more Miner Talk. We're going to get into our in and out segment. We're also going to take some phone calls. So if you want to weigh in, 915-505-6009. UTEP defeats Chicago State 74-69. We're presented by the Oscar Arieta Agency. More in a moment right here on 600 ESPN El Paso. All right, we are back. Miner Talk continues here, presented by the Oscar Arieta Agency, along with Sal Montes, Alberto Reta, Zay Galindo. I'm Adrian Broadus. We've got full phone lines here, 915-505-6009. Let's do it. Let's get to some phone calls, and then we will jump back to our segment in or out. Really appreciate everybody calling in. I know it's a weird Sunday game. Just for everybody's reference, I saw it bounce around a couple people on X, formerly known as Twitter, that people were upset that it was on a Sunday. It's in the middle of the Cowboys game. I get all of that. I'll tell you this. I know that the coaching staff wasn't thrilled that this game was on Sunday, January 7th, and they really didn't have a choice. I mean, schedule making is difficult in itself, and I think that this is just one of those weird games that came after UTEP actually started conference play. So it was their non-conference finale when CUSA has already play has already really tipped off. But yeah, regardless, here's where the UTEP Miners are, 9-7, heading into their full season of conference play. Let's get things started on the phone lines. We got James, Abel, and then we got another phone call as well. Let's go to it, 915-505-6009. This is first up. Let's go to the phones. It's James who's joining us first. James, good afternoon, man. What's going on?
Good afternoon, and I've got to commend you guys. You guys are doing a great job in a very difficult atmosphere right now, in a difficult environment at the University of Texas at El Paso. But keep up the good work, man. You guys are doing great. Just very difficult for anybody to get up for a Chicago or UTEP Miner or over a Chicago win when we had lost to NMSU. And the other thing I want to address is, I don't know if you've seen the coach after some of these press conferences, but I mean, we've got to be concerned for his health. I mean, he is just overwhelmed. I think he's just have not been able to get his hands and arms and around the situation and the guys to respond. I mean, and it's really concerning for our total program.
So I'll say this real quick, James, and then I'll let you finish your point. I just want to say this. I have no questions whatsoever on the health or concerns about Joe Golding. Now, if you want to say that he's a little too fiery or that, these games are just exhausting for him at the end, I mean, it just tells you how much work that him and this staff, they're really having to put into this season. I think they're, just to put it blunt, they're coaching their asses off right now in what they're trying to do. Now, is it translating to wins and losses like fans would like to see? No, not necessarily. But they're trying to develop and trying to get this team at a better spot than they are right now. But go ahead, James.
And I'll tell you, just trying and effort after effort without results is just that. It's just efforts without any results. And I mean, we can defend them as much as we want to. And I mean, our sons defended him, and I said no. When I first saw him, he was not the coach that I wanted for UTEP. I think I would have liked that NMSU guy. Jans, just a better recruiter, he had the experience of Division I getting to the NCAA tournament more than one time. And just a very difficult situation for us as long-time season ticket holders. And this is my motto. I want UTEP to go back to the NCAA basketball tournament before I die.
Yeah.
And that's going to be my motto. So, yeah. But thanks again, guys. Thank you very much.
Hey, great stuff, James. I appreciate that. And look, the reality is your standard that you hold UTEP to is the same standard that a lot of people will have, and they will not compromise, James. People, and we've talked about this a lot, Sal, it's NCAA tournament or nothing for a lot of people. And maybe it should for a historically solid program like UTEP where they had so much success in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. This program in basketball has been so historic, so amazing, and those fans that hold it to that high of a standard where, hey, they want them to get to a really high threshold. That's a really solid thing, and that's a real thing as well. And I'm not going to downplay those feelings for some of those fans who want to see UTEP play at that high level every single year. So there you go. Hey, let's keep it going. 915-505-6009. Abel is next on the phone lines. Abel, good afternoon. What's going on, man?
Hey, well, before we start, I want to plug, of course, Mineros en Español.
Oh, Abel. This is Abel from Mineros de Español. It's great to hear from you, Abel. What's going on, man?
Yeah. I just want to plug and let everybody know we're on Facebook. You can follow us. I have a great sports writer that's written for sports in Juarez and here in El Paso, Javier Sanchez, and he writes up the stories just like anything else, and got a good little following. So I want to appreciate all the people that follow us and see if you guys can help me grow a little bit. But I got to tell you one thing, okay? Being at the New Mexico State game and understanding that after watching what I thought was like a really inconsistent performance, that they still got it to 4, and then. What did it say about a team that, you thought by watching them in the first part of, their season that looked like, they were very active. They moved around quite a bit and the big guys were, they were putting the stuff in, and now it's changed around, and I understand that. But the fact of the matter is that this is not a bad team. This is a good team, and it will, if it can find its identity within itself. These guys are like brothers anyway, man. And anybody that has ever gone to practice, okay, knows that Coach Cox and Coach Golding they're bulldozers, man. I mean, they jump in the middle and grab guys and throw them around, and I mean, they're definitely coaching hard, okay. So after that, then it comes down to the player, the person, the desire, the want, the need. That's how you define yourself if you're going to play college ball. Do I like where I'm at? It's got a lot of mental variables now that I don't think were in there when you'd have to go and play like for Don Haskins, and he would just tell you to sit down and be quiet.
Well, hey, Abel, let me ask you this. So what it sounds like to me from what you're saying right here is that trust the coaching staff. This is their style. They're trying to get the right players, but you got to put some of the fault or maybe some of the blame of the struggles early season on maybe the players themselves versus the coaching staff themselves. Well, then answer me this, Abel, because you said this team is good right now. What is good? What define good right here with this group?
What I mean, they're good and they're good enough to get better.
Okay.
They're not. In other words, this is not
you
the
like
end of
the
the
potential.
line. This is not
you like
the end
the
of the
potential.
line. Well, I hate the word potential. I want it to happen. Okay, I mean, everyone's got potential, but a good team's got to have much more than potential. They have it as far as the players. Okay, look what they did today. Like you said, they have 4 guards and pivoting and changing things around. That's fine, but there's going to come games where and I know that you got to put the big guys in and try to get some points in the paint.
But they're not going to do that, man. I mean, that they're pivoting. They're changing their philosophy right here. I appreciate
and that's not how ball's played now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, Sal. And I appreciate the phone call, Abel. I hear the perspective that you have here. I just I would disagree where this team is at right now. Maybe I don't know. We're gonna have to see a bigger sample size to see what this pivot really means for UTEP. If they, like you said, throw the bigger guys down low and we see a 2 big man approach again with maybe Solomon and Kalu sharing the floor at the same time. But Zay, we've even talked about this off air. Like it just seems like where UTEP's at right now, they are not going to be playing both Kalu and Solomon on the floor together here in the near future.
It just hasn't worked. It just hasn't worked out. And the way that UTEP is built, they're not built to have forcing it inside the paint every time to a guy like Kevin Kalu, who we saw when he did get the ball in the paint, he was missing bunnies. He was missing 2-footers. So what's the point of all that when you can be spreading the floor, doing something that actually worked for you today?
Yeah, good point. Hey, let's go back to the phones. It's Hunter next on the phone lines. Hunter, hey, Happy New Year. Or Larry David says I can't say that, but what's going on, man?
Going on, man? Hope you enjoyed that vacation.
I did. I really did, man. It was great to get a good reset, but I'm back and I will not leave for a while. So,
you got to plan those trips, man. And Sal and some of the other guys had to hold it down through some rough times, man. So hope you appreciate it.
Yeah, they did a great job. By the way, I said it earlier, but I'll say it again. Shout out to all the guys who helped out while I was gone. So really good stuff. How did you see this one, Hunter? Are you glass half full? Did you see some things you liked today? Or are you still pretty disappointed where they're at right now?
I think what the previous callers were alluding to, they have a team that is capable of competing with anybody in this conference. We've seen it. They're not out. It's not like the talent in other teams is so much greater than UTEP. So that's what gives hope, right? Is that there isn't a huge talent disparity anywhere. If they put it together, they're going to be okay. But the question is, will they? And I think what your first caller earlier was, he wasn't talking about Joe Golding's health. He's talking about how stressed out he is. And Golding said that last year was one of his hardest years coaching. I would venture to say that this year is worse.
Yeah.
Because these are 100% his guys. And I think it was Sal that was just talking before you answered. They're not built to do, whatever the point was he was making, that they're not built for that. What is this team built for? You guys tell me that then. What is this team built for?
maybe built for development because they've got younger guys with David Terrell, Elijah Jones, and Trey Horton today that they were excited about. I mean, that's but I say that with a big question mark because you've got veteran guys like Zid Powell, Tay Hardy, and Calvin Solomon, who this is their final year of eligibility right here. I mean, this is the veteran group with those three right there, quote unquote.
And Cal Lou's been on 3 years. This is not a young team.
No, this is not a young team. I want to make that very, very clear. If I hear things like inexperience and stuff like that, I'll pull out game logs because now Cal Lou started probably over 25 games. I'd have to go back and look at those numbers exactly, but he's easily played in over 70. So I don't want to hear about inexperience there.
So my point was trying to make, this team's not built for anything. It's just like a hodgepodge of players, and the fact that they're willing to change right when conference starts, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't make adjustments and try things and all that. By all means, you should always be evolving. But they don't have a coaching philosophy. Right now, they're not even defending well. And you guys talked about that, he's a guard at heart. Tell me about good guard play because I haven't seen it. And there is none. I think something happened. Who knows? At that California trip, I don't know what it was, but that's when the personality of this team really changed. Because before this, they were playing with intensity. They were out there wanting it. They were getting after it on both ends of the court, whether the shots fall or not. Right now shots are not falling, which is fine. Except today I think, with the exception of Horton and Hardy, nobody else made a three. But something happened, and the fire's not there, the intensity's not there. And if Golden can get them back, they'll be okay. But if they continue this lackluster, just uninspired basketball, it's going to be a long season. And that's the most disappointing thing is the abilities there. They're not playing to it.
Sure, and I think the only thing that you'll be able to judge Golding on at the end of the year is the record, and you're going to stack it up to last year's record and say, hey, 14-18 last season. You're going to look at the numbers this year, and you're going to reflect back on year one where, I've been asking this to a lot of people lately, and it's a tough question. Who is UTEP's best recruit under Joe Golding? And I think and I want to hear your answer to this one, Hunter, but I'll give you mine first. My answer would be the retention of guys like Sule Boom and those guys in year one, Jamal Bieniemy in year one. That was, you want to talk about good recruiting. Just keeping those guys there year one. That's probably the best recruit he has here at UTEP up to this point. And I don't know the other ones. I don't know the other ones that you can actually tell me that came in here as a top level recruit. He's brought in recruits that he's actually developed and actually made a little bit better. But I don't know. I think that's where you got to start when you start to wonder what happened to this season is you reevaluate things like recruiting, and then you wonder, well, which guys have really stood out during his tenure and his regime here at UTEP?
Well, he's proven he's not a good recruiter, but we were all thinking that, okay, you're 100% right, Adrian. His best players were keeping the ones from Terry's regime. 100%. The talent level is not the same. However, I thought that with his coaching ability and motivating ability, they'd be okay. He could recruit slightly lower level, and they're going to be fine. But he's not even getting the most out of what he has. It's not like these players are at a lesser caliber, and he's just getting the most out of them. He's getting the least out of lower caliber. You should not struggle with Chicago State. You should not. I don't care who you are. NMSU's in the dumps. I mean, the worst team they've had probably in 20 years. And they win, and he talks about trusting the process. Your process has been going on for 3 years. This guy's been there not even a whole season, and apparently they're better than our program. So that's the problem. And people, he's not motivating these guys, but motivation is not enough. When you're motivated, say you want to lose weight, you go out when it's a nice day and you're going to go run, but are you motivated enough to get out there when it's snowing or, when it's bad weather or you're feeling bad? That's called discipline. And discipline is more important than motivation, and they have zero. And that's what one of your other callers talked about is sloppy passes, and they have zero discipline. And like guys that I'm in charge of, I always tell them, hey, I can tolerate mistakes. I will not tolerate lack of effort. If you don't show me effort, you're gone. And he's kind of the opposite. He will tolerate attitudes and lack of effort from the likes of Calvin Solomon because he paid him $50,000 this year, and Zid Powell because he was paid the same. But he will not tolerate mistakes by younger players that are putting in the effort. I would much rather him punish effort than mistakes. I'd love to see a team out there with Camper and Hardy and David Terrell and Elijah Jones, and throw Hamilton in there. Let him make mistakes. Let him get beat. But they're going to give you everything they got. I can tolerate that a lot more than this nonsense that some of these players are putting out there. Solomon's checked out.
I hear you, man. Hey, great stuff, Hunter, as always. It's great to catch up with you. Happy New Year. We'll talk plenty more here throughout the season, and we'll have a lot more time to dissect this, but really good stuff back and forth. And just to put a bow on this, Kevin Kalu, I was right on the money. 22 starts, 72 games he's played over his time here at UTEP. So there you go, guys. Any reactions to the Hunter call? Sal?
Man, he really cares a lot. And the funny thing is, I feel like that's a common call that we get, not just from him, but from a lot of callers, and I think that's kind of indicative of how the season's gone. And he mentioned like, hey, you shouldn't be struggling against Chicago State, and I understand that. You hold this team to a high standard, but I don't think this team is good enough to stray away consistently from teams that are better than Chicago State. I think when they take on Chicago State, that's a team that's in your wheelhouse. Yeah, they showed flashes of what they could be, but I mentioned this with the football team when they had that bowl game season against Fresno State, how they kind of overachieved. Maybe that win against Cal was just the overachieving moment, and this team might not reclaim that type of that type of feel, so to speak, or that type of big time moment, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
so
no, it definitely does.
We've just seen so many inconsistencies because, they won this game, and that's good. You want to get back on the winning track, and this is a team that you could get it done against. But going down the road from your conference stretch, especially in some of those tougher places to play, like we mentioned, Murfreesboro, so many other places in Bowling Green at Western Kentucky, do you truly believe that this win against Chicago State is going to, pivot them towards that?
Nah, I don't. I personally don't. But it's a really good point. Let's keep things moving. Our telephone number 915-505-6009. JJ Miner fan is next up on the phone lines. Joe John, what's going on, man? It's great to hear from you.
Hey, welcome back. Well, first off, I'm not happy with the win. I mean, I know it's weird to say, but like everybody else is saying, struggling against Chicago State, I'm not happy with it. Okay. And like the other callers are saying, I think the coach lost the team. Honestly, Coach Cox is the one that coaches in game. And you could see, Coach Golding walking away, not really interested. He's like more of a rah-rah type of guy, but it's really Coach Cox that's coaching the team. And I think he lost the team at this point.
I disagree, just because, you have guys who are still playing really hard for him. So if you say the whole locker room or, you lost the whole team, I'd completely disagree with that. Just because, again, you've got guys like David Terrell, who's actually getting better as the season's going along. And if you want to hang your hat on any kind of pros on this team or things that you can be excited about moving forward, I'd be really excited about David Terrell Jr., just a freshman, a true freshman. When's the last true freshman that's played these kind of minutes? I mean, you'd have to look back to the really bad season, year one of Rodney Terry, when Nigel Hawkins, Jordan Lathan, Effie Odigi, they were kind of let loose that year and able to make a lot of mistakes as freshmen. So, and then you get guys like Corey Camper, who's still giving, his all. Tay Hardy is still an all-conference caliber type of player, so he's not checked out yet. He's really trying to win these games. So I think, I hear where you're coming from, JJ. I understand your frustrations, but I don't feel like that's warranted. I feel like there are guys out there on this team who are really giving it their all. And I'd actually like to highlight Tay Hardy. I think he's kind of the guy who gets, underrepresented as far as guys who cares and gives a lot of effort, and he's really stepped up in that way. Even in the bad games. I mean, even in the games where they're struggling, like the NMSU game, the Seattle game, he's not quitting, and he's really trying to give it his all to try to win those games. So, JJ, I'll disagree with you there.
But I mean, what I mean by that is you put a Billy Gillespie in there, You put even a Doc Sadler with, remember, his offensive plays were pretty darn good. You put one of those coaches in there, they're going to get a lot of potential out of them. Coach Barbie. But this Coach Golding, is not getting the full potential like the other callers were saying. He's not getting the full potential. He's not getting their buy-in. Like Billy Gillespie's players, the first year, remember how bad it was?
Yeah,
and yet
turn around
all around it. Yeah, all the fans were buying it because of their heart, and they're putting all the effort into it. I just don't see it. I don't see it.
I understand. Hey, JJ, I hear where you're coming from, and I appreciate the phone call. Thanks for weighing in on the show. Hey, our telephone number, 915-505-6009. A good string of phone calls. Let's keep it going. We've got Augustine and then Sarah. Let's first go to Sarah, and then we'll go to Augustine after that. 915-505-6009. Sarah, welcome to 2024 Miner Talk. It's been a while since we've last spoken. How's everything going?
Everything's going okay.
Good.
I've been watching the whole season. I kind of didn't want to call in, but I had to call in tonight because I did see the struggle that we had, and I didn't think that we would struggle as much against this team. So I was a little disappointed.
Yeah, Sarah, real quick, because I think fans are not understanding what we're trying to say here. Fans are putting UTEP at a good standard right here. In Chicago State, I put them at the standard where I want UTEP to blow them out. I want UTEP to have that get-right game ahead of the full Conference USA stretch.
Yeah, that's kind of where I thought we would be as well. I don't know what's going on with Derek Hamilton. I don't know what's going on with Elijah Jones not getting more time. I'm real disappointed as far as our bigs go. I do. New Mexico State did kind of surprise me with the bigs that they had. They had some huge dudes. Wasn't expecting that. I wasn't really watching them, but they came out with a whole lot of quality, huge guys that I wasn't expecting. But I still feel like that we played pretty good against New Mexico State. But tonight, I really thought that our bigs would come in and dominate the game. I really did. Our guards did excellent tonight. I really thought that they did good. But where are our bigs representation? We can't make Kalu do all the work. I expect a lot from Kalu, but I also expect a whole lot more from Solomon, as well as where is Derek Hamilton?
Yeah, we're all good points, Sarah, and I really appreciate the phone call. Thanks for weighing in. I mean, you know this program pretty well, so you understand where this team is at, and you understand where their inefficiencies start at, and you're pointing out at the front court. Now, the Elijah Jones reference today, he gets 6 minutes. He actually contributes in a pretty good effort. A point, he did have, he did not have a foul. He did not have a turnover like he sometimes does have when he plays in these small stretches of periods. However, I would just say when it comes to Elijah Jones, they're really being careful with him as a freshman, and I think they're really trying to monitor those minutes. I hope he gets more minutes as well. I'm a little disappointed in Calvin Solomon as well. I hear where you're coming from there. And then as far as Derek Hamilton, I mean, man, yeah, your guess is as good as mine. I really don't know when we're going to see him next, or, when he's going to actually earn those minutes off the bench. And that's another thing. Kevin Kalu, where are you guys at with him? In or out? Let's jump the gun. Where are you guys at? Zay, in or out? Kevin Kalu, where are you at right now?
I'm in on Kevin Kalu. He's playing a good 20 minutes. He's getting, 4 or 5 rebounds, maybe 5 points. Yeah, I'm in on that. Out if he's playing, 30-plus minutes.
Sal?
It depends on if he's in foul trouble or not. No, you know what? I can't joke here. I'm in because the reason why I'm in is because the upside is there, and you know what you're going to get from him. It's not so much Jekyll and Hyde. You know what I mean? I think he's always going to give that effort that people are talking about. We just heard a ton of callers mention guys are not bought in. That's a guy who's clearly bought in. He's just extremely raw, extremely rough when it comes to tapping out that potential. He start playing organized basketball at 17?
Yes.
You know, but you have somebody like that who's willing to run through a brick wall for anybody who's out there. And I think that exemplifies what this team really needs. Now, he's not reliable at the line, but he's going to do just about everything else for you.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to mess up one offensive possession each game that's going to frustrate you, and then he's going to have a highlight reel play that's going to make you all bought in. So, yeah, I think with Kevin Cal, you kind of get the both swings. Alberto, where are you at? In or out?
I'm in. I think the Miners need him if they want to succeed.
Man, I'm on an island here. I'm out. So that's where I'm at. Let's keep things moving. Let's go back to the phone lines. 915-505-6009. Augustine is next on the phone lines. Augustine, welcome back. What's going on?
Hey, Adrian. Hey, Sal. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, I just got three things to say. And all the things that Miner fans are saying, if I said those things before, I would have gotten crucified. Yeah, here's a laugh. I would have gotten crucified because, everybody has their opinion and all this and that. But at the same time, the thing is, how far is Golden into his tenure at UTEP? This is
year 3.
Second year? Year 3. I mean, never in the history of UTEP have we been so critical of a coach at year 3. Not even Dana Dimmel got this kind of scrutiny.
Oh, my gosh,
so I think...
No.
You're way off, Augustine.
You're way off. Who did
he replace?
Who did he replace?
Who replaced who?
Who did Joe Golding replace?
Terry, I think.
And Terry lasted how many years?
Terry lasted 2 more years than he needed to be here anyway.
Terry lasted 3 years here, okay? He was the head coach at UTEP for 3 seasons, okay? And, I think people were pretty much out year 1 or year 2 at least. I mean, and I'm not saying I was necessarily. Yeah, year 1.5, exactly, but a lot of fans were out.
Yeah, but that's because of a lot of reasons, because players were not, going at it and a bunch of different things, With Terry, it was a different thing. Golding at least takes accountability for the mistakes for the team.
Agreed. Completely agree. I agree with that 100%. He takes all the accountability.
Exactly. And that's what you need from a head coach. And this change that he's doing, that's what coaches need to do. If something isn't working, change it, and that's what he's doing. I mean, if you expect different results and are doing the same thing, then you're basically crazy.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's right. You've got to adjust.
I mean, and that's something from different UTEP coaches that we hadn't seen. Admit, hey, I was wrong about this. We're going to try it a different way. When has another UTEP coach done that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. He's taking accountability. He also takes a lot of ownership for this stuff. And going into the season, he took a lot of accountability for how last year's season went. So really good point there, Augustine. Actually, to close out, you patched it up. After steering the ship south, you patched it up and, you landed the ship. So good stuff, man. I appreciate it. Hey, our telephone number again, 915-505-6009 to get into the program. All right, guys, let's do it. Miner Talk listeners' favorite segment, in or out. Let's just jump into it, and we'll go player by player. We already crossed off Kevin Kalu, so we don't have to go that route anymore. But let's start off with the positive one. In or out, David Terrell Jr. We'll start with you, Alberto. In or out?
I'm in.
Okay. Simply put. Sal, in or out?
All the way in.
Yeah. Zay, go ahead, and if you want to elaborate, feel free.
Yeah. I'm in, no doubt about it. He played a great game. He's a big spark, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's starting next game.
Wow. Okay. All right. Let's switch it up. Baylor Heb, in or out? Sal, go ahead.
Out.
Yeah. Any reason?
I just think the lack of production, and I don't think it's fair to expect a lot of production, but it's basically kind of been ineffective, to a fault for the Miners since he's been in there, where they need to hit the open shots, and that's somebody you need to hit a shot consistently, especially when the game plan kind of finds its way onto the Miners saying, hey, take this jump shot because it's going to be open. They got to be a lot more, I don't want to say aggressive because I think they are aggressive with the jump shots, but they definitely got to be more efficient. And the more efficient they are, then they can start to spread things around. I think today they did well on that, but it's also an anomaly because it's Chicago State. So I want to see them be able to do something like this against the Western Kentucky or New Mexico State when they get them back at the Haskins Center.
All right, Alberto, swing it over to you. In or out?
I'm out, unfortunately. They brought him in to shoot, and he hasn't done that really well, and now the team is suffering.
Well, they were suffering before it, right? I mean, as far as shooting, they were definitely suffering before he actually joined the team. But to your point, they really didn't get an addition there. Zay, where are you at right now? In or out?
Yeah, I'm out. I think, I'm not a college coach, obviously, but I feel like he was maybe rushed in a little bit, right? He started that New Mexico State game. I think it's like his third game back. I mean, maybe we expected too much from him, but yeah, I'm out. He just didn't provide much for this UTEP team.
Yeah, I think that's where it is. I think you and Sal hit on it, and I think where I'm at with Baylor Heb is I'm not out. The jury's still out whether or not you could be in on a player like that. But it's because of just not being able to see it over the past couple seasons. So I thought about it. I was like, so where is Baylor Heb? Do you classify him as a younger player? Do you classify him as an inexperienced player? Where would you classify him? Sal, if I had to make you guess, over under 50 games played for Baylor Heb, is he over or under that mark?
I would say under.
He's at 68 games played in his college basketball career.
It doesn't look like it.
Well,
that's the concerning part.
And to your point, 10.2 minutes a game is what he's averaged over his career. And maybe that number's a little skewed, right? Because first year he plays for an NCAA tournament team in Loyola, Chicago, and he plays in 19 games off the bench. It's probably in garbage time when the team's already killing them and he's playing in those matchups. So, that's a tough year to really evaluate. Second year, Colorado State, that's his sophomore season. He plays in 11 games, same thing, off the bench sparingly, doesn't really shoot a lot, doesn't really do anything on that team at all. Last year played for Colorado State, played in 33 games, started in 14 of those, averaged 12 minutes a game, shot 53% from 2-point shots and then 31% from 3-point shots. So the discourse around Baylor Heb was he's going to be the sharpshooter, he's going to be the guy who comes in, who hits the shot, who's the splash guy, who's a guy who this coaching staff's recruited year over year and who they've really liked out of high school, and they felt like his potential has never really been maximized. I get all of that. It's just too early to even tell on all of that as far as in a UTEP uniform. We just haven't seen it in a UTEP uniform. And so for that, I'm not completely out, but I guess I want to see more. And if you argued, well, you've already seen 68 games worth, then, I mean, it's tough to argue with that. So there you go. Let's keep it moving. Next one, in or out. Calvin Solomon. This is a tough one. Zay, go ahead.
I'm always going to be on Calvin Solomon. I just think, it's there. It's going to take time. Obviously, it shouldn't be taking time for a guy who's in his last year of college basketball, but I feel like he'll get it rolling eventually. He's such a good defender, and he just needs to buy in a little bit more, and I think that's possible when he's been with, this coaching staff for 2 years, and I'm in.
Okay, Sal, Calvin Solomon.
Out. I'm out just for the regression on offense for a guy who you mentioned. I think the defense is there. That's always going to be there, and that's why he continues to get the minutes that he does. But you can't be a returning member who's a focal point in the starting lineup and regress on offense. It's almost 4 points worse. When you go back to the game against McMurray, right there getting 12, so the average starts at 12. But you go to the most recent game where he just gets 2. You're at 7.9 points per game as well. That's what, 2/3 basically that you're in the hole for. So, or a third rather. So I don't think the team looks a lot better with him on the floor either.
Yeah, I'd have to honestly agree with that. I'm out as well. But before I give my reason, Alberto, you go ahead.
I'm out just because, or I'm in, but I think I don't matter. I think it's the coaches who are slowly not giving him minutes anymore, and they're going to continue to go down, especially as the younger guys get better. offensively. So yeah, his offensive production, that's what's going to get him off the court.
Yeah, Calvin Solomon, I'll give you some stats, guys. So, number one, turnover rate. So this actually takes your possessions and it cuts it in like a pie chart, right? Okay, hear me out on this one right here. So if I said the amount of effective field goals that he shoots is a certain percentage, and the amount of turnovers that he commits is a certain percentage. Okay, you all follow me on that one right there? Calvin Solomon right now on this season, he is turning the ball over almost 25% of the offensive possessions he has. Okay, so it's a quarter of the time. The advanced stats really don't like where Calvin Solomon is right now offensively. And against Tier A and Tier B teams, we're talking about teams that are in the top 100 or top 150 on KenPom, and that's advanced analytics of college basketball right now. Calvin Solomon turns the ball over almost 50%, 48% turnover rate against Tier A, Tier B teams. 48% turnovers right now. So that's not a good number. His assist ratio on that right there, it's a 17%. So he's turning the ball over more than he's assisting on shots. And right now, where the Miners need him to be, I mean, of course, that's not a good place at all for you to be at if you're Calvin Solomon on the season. And the regression is real, right? To start off the season, he has started a game, every single game that he's played in back-to-back seasons at Stephen F. Austin and at UTEP from 2021 through 2023. Started 32 games at Stephen F. Austin. Started all 32 last year. This year, to start off the season, he started 11 of the first games, and then now I think this is the fourth or fifth game that he has come off the bench. And this one, he had 14 minutes, so his minutes are really starting to diminish. In fact, last year he averaged almost 30 minutes a game for the Miners. This year he's averaging 20. So there's a drop-off right there, and there's a drop-off in production. The turnovers are what they are, and he's just having them at a higher rate. He's fouling at a higher rate as well. Last year he averaged 2.4 fouls a game. This year, 2.7 fouls per game, so he's fouling at a higher rate as well. And I'm not trying to pick on him right now too much, but advanced analytics, the advanced stats will tell you a story and paint a story that Calvin Solomon right now is one of the problems in terms of UTEP's inefficiencies. All right, talking inefficiencies, where are we at? Zid Powell, in or out? Zay, you start us off.
I'm out. I think Zid Powell, he's a hooper. He can definitely get buckets, but we've seen in stretches he's just not bought into this team. He's just kind of out there sometimes, and that's just that you can't have that when that's your transfer. That's your big time transfer. When that's the guy that you went out and got. He's the one who's supposed to get you a bucket when your offense is stagnant. There's 5 seconds left on the shot clock. You should be looking for Zid Powell, and they're just not.
Yeah, that's a good point, too. By the way, guys, Rams just tied things up, or they're actually trying to go for 2 right now to take the lead over the 49ers. Rams never beat the 49ers, so this is like my Christmas right here, so I'm very happy. See you next week, Sal. Speaking of Sal, where are you at? In or out, Zid Powell?
Oh, man, I really don't know, but I got to pick. I can't, and I guess that's a good noise right there.
Yes, 21-20.
There we go. You know what? I'll say this. Damn, I don't even know what I want to say, man.
Where are you going? In or out? Zid Powell.
I just got to, don't think about it, just say it, out.
Wow. Okay.
Out. But
I got you.
I will say this, though. However, that has to be Tay Hardy's team. I've said before how if Powell isn't going offensively, they're going to have a tougher time to win, and I still hold on to that. But when I say out, it's more so on the fact that this is Tay Hardy's team, and I think he's shown it. It gets overlooked a lot, and I think because he may be a lot quieter, so to speak. The production isn't quieter. I think the production's there for Tay Hardy, but I'm just saying out because you got to go with one or the other when it comes to your guards, and the more reliable guy has been Tay Hardy.
Alberto.
100%.
Yeah, I'm out. I just haven't seen anything from him that I think is super special, and he hasn't helped the team apart from that huge performance that was 30 points. He hasn't turned it on like that in any other performances, and especially not at MSU when they really needed it.
They did need it that day. I would say, look, with Zid Powell, it's tough because he's such a polarizing player. They need him to be the best player. I'm out on him as a leader. I'm out on him as his body language. Don't like those two things right there, and I think that he really needs to improve on the leadership and the body language stuff if this team wants to have some success when it comes to postseason Conference USA hoops in the tournament. And I mean, he was someone who UTEP really relied on to be the guy, one of the alphas on this team. And I think when you don't have him stepping up the way that they needed it just really hurts them in games like today even. I mean, today, Zid Powell he sometimes, I don't even know how to describe it, guys. Does he disappear? Does he it just kind of in stretches? He really frustrates you. He turns the ball over at times. 26 minutes today, 10 points, 2 of 6 from the floor, got to the free throw line, which is his bread and butter. I mean, he can draw contact pretty well. He had a monstrous block that looked great. It was a highlight reel type of block. 3 steals as well. But yeah, just not the Zid Powell performance that UTEP is really relying on here moving forward. So I think that we kind of covered it there. We kind of understand. All right, let's talk about this one. In or out, UTEP basketball recruiting philosophy. In or out. And when I preface this, let me preface this with this, okay? UTEP has gone with a couple transfer portal guys. They've gotten a couple JUCO guys. They retained some guys like Tay Hardy, Calvin Solomon, Jonathan Dos Anjos, you name it. Derek Hamilton, you name it. And then they've gotten high school players, which is something that UTEP hasn't done in a while. In or out, UTEP recruiting philosophy. Sal, go ahead. You start us off.
You know what? I'll say out. And the main reason why is because I feel like the philosophy changes often, and it's hard to develop an identity of players that you want to come to UTEP. I think the primary thing is going to be defense, or that's what it was the first couple of years, and then they switched it over to three-point shooting, but it just hasn't transitioned or hasn't translated to that request, right? You know, you go three-point shooting heavy in the off season as far as recruiting goes, and you land some shooters, I guess, based off of film and numbers, but it just hasn't panned out that way. But in addition to you not hitting your shots, you're defending, the worst you have in about 3 years.
Okay, good stuff there. Good stuff. Our telephone number, 915-505-6009. Zay, you go ahead. In or out?
Yeah, high school recruiting, definitely in. We saw David Terrell and Trey Horton go crazy today, right? They basically carried the offense at times. But I am definitely out on the way that they've been recruiting the transfer portal. And I'm going to ask you guys this question, right? How many players has UTEP lost to the Power 5 while Joe Golding has been here, right? It's been Sule Boom, Zarek Onyema, Titus Verhoeven, and how many Power 5 or former Power 5 players are on this roster right now?
Zero.
Man, I don't feel like they're utilizing the transfer portal correctly. And you need to get winners, and you need to get guys who have played at the biggest stage when you have that opportunity to do so. You look at Louisiana Tech, they have that Daniel Bacho, right, from Texas Tech. He's tearing it up. So I would really like to see them, mix in more Power 5 guys, more guys who have been productive at the Division I level.
Yeah, I'd actually even go as far to say that the JUCO rate is kind of like 50-50. They'll get one guy who kind of pans out, the other guy who's like, they didn't really need that. They needed maybe a better version of what that was. So JUCO is kind of 50-50. Feels like they are hitting on high school guys, like for the true freshman guys. It feels like they really have something with David Terrell. They've got somebody, KJ Thomas, who's coming in next year. That's a younger true freshman who's coming from Amarillo as well. So I like the idea of developing high school guys, Sal.
And you know what? To that point, Adrian, I think they had somebody, but he's not there no more. Jamal Sumlin.
There you go.
That was another one who could have been
to Kent State.
I think he could have been incredible, but
yes.
Man.
That's an ultimate what could have been. Kent State. Remember the name, Jamal Sumlin.
I see your Hamilton and raise you a Jamal Sumlin.
And Jamal Sumlin, what could have been, right? That's a great one. Now Zay's going to tweet stuff about Jamal Sumlin.
I'm so sorry, man.
I already have. When he committed, I was yeah.
All right, Alberto, where are you at? In or out?
I'm in, but I think that a lot of people are quick to call out their faults with Zid Powell and Baylor Hebman. I think that's partially the players' fault. They bring them in the transfer portal, and these guys are supposed to be X, Y, and Z, and they're not living up to those expectations. And that's not particularly the coach's fault, in my opinion.
Sure, good stuff. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with where you're going with that. Let's go a couple other ones pretty quick on this one. Let's go a little rapid fire, guys, on some of these other in or out. Let's go in or out. Who have we not touched? Oh, let's do this one. In or out, Corey Camper Jr. Let's go with you, Zay.
In.
Okay, Sal, in or out?
I'm in on Camper. The energy that he brings when he comes in off the bench is much needed.
Yeah, and I think he's a really high-level defender, too. We'll go with you, Alberto, real quick. In or out?
In.
Okay, good stuff. Corey Camper Jr., I think he's provided a little bit. He's kind of come into his own a little bit more. I want him to make more shots. That's my only thing that I would want from Corey Camper Jr. moving forward. But I think you guys pretty much hit it on the head. He's been pretty valuable out of the past couple weeks, and I think he's been a high-level, high-intensity defender as of late as well. Let's go back to the phones, and hey, I appreciate the good in or out conversation, guys. Good stuff. Actually, let's pause 10 seconds for station identification. You're listening to Miner Talk, brought to you by the Oscar Arieta Agency. We've got our hot hand of the game, brought to you by Wind Supply El Paso, and our player of the game, brought to you by Timothy Cantrell, coming up next here on 600 ESPN El Paso. Guys, the Miners, the Rams are going to beat the 49ers here. I am so happy. The Rams never beat the 49ers. This is great stuff. Let's go back to the phones right now, 915-505-6009 if you'd like to weigh in on the show. George is next up on the phone lines. George, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, Adrian? I think I'm out on a lot of the majority of the players that you did mention. And one of the things I'm more disappointed in is the lack of effort by a lot of them. I see Tay Hardy playing at a better level. He had 17 points against NMSU. He had his points today too. But I also see not utilizing Elijah Jones and giving him a little more minutes than what they're giving him. This kid has the potential to be better, but he is not given the opportunity. I think Baylor Head has not shown, and if I were Golding, I think I would go with Jones over Head any day, or even Kemper or Terrell Jr., anyone other than him. He just does not show that he needs to be in there. One of the things that stands out to me that one of the previous callers did mention is that SoCal Challenge. This team changed. I have seen a very lackluster or lack of there with this team. I don't see the emphatic play by them. Their defense used to be a little more pick-me-up. I don't see that. I went to the NMSU game, and I was very, very disappointed because NMSU, with a first-year coach, beating us at home, it just shouldn't have happened. This team at the start of the year played with a lot of enthusiasm. I don't see that now. I see them playing Chicago State and actually, like a lot of callers have said, blowing them out, and they haven't. I have not seen this team play to the potential that they can. Solomon and Powell have checked out. I don't know what the deal is with them. They think that because they got the NIL, that they're the big men on campus and they don't have to play at their potential. I just don't see them as a senior leadership in this squad. I see other players stepping up, and I see some that are just checked out.
Fair enough. Hey, really good point there, George, and it's great to hear from you, man. Great to have you back here on the show with us, so I appreciate the phone call in a big way. Hey, to your point, you brought up the SoCal Challenge, George. To your point about that, Miners are 4-6 since the SoCal Challenge. Ever since that one, they split the SoCal Challenge, by the way. So if you really want to boil it down, when they went to California, they've been 5-7. That's their mark up until this point. So there you go. That's how they pretty much wrap up non-conference play right there. Hey, let's go back to X, formerly known as Twitter. Then we'll get to Johnny, who is next up on the phone lines right now. This one is coming in from this first one is coming in from Manny David. Tuning into Miner Talk late, but you would think they lost to Chicago State by 20. A win is a win. Hopefully this is the start of a winning streak. I think 3 or 4 of the next games are winnable. Hashtag Miner Talk, hashtag Go Miners. Look, Manny David, we understand. I've been out, Manny David, so I wanted to kind of recap on some of the games that I've missed. So I hear what you're saying. We're not trying to go doom and gloom right now, but I want to give a little reality check to where UTEP's at here on the season right now. This guy at This Miner Fan sends us this one. Thank God we won. I'll take it, and I'll take what we can get. Honestly, I don't see many wins this year. For the love of God, they need to sit Heb. King Eric chimes in. Getting the win is great and all, but the fact that they were down as much as 5 or 6 to a bad Chicago State team is concerning, especially with conference play about to start. I do think now that Horton and Terrell should be the 6th and 7th guys. This is from Esteban. I said it before and I'll say it again. NIL dollars leads to complacency. At 600 ESPN El Paso. What do you guys think about that thought right there? Sal, you go ahead. What do you think about that one?
I think it could, but at the same time, if you're trying to get up to that next level, it's something that isn't going to factor in. I'll say this. I think it weeds out those who aren't serious.
There you go.
You know, if anything, you could be grateful for it if you're an NBA scout.
Yeah, that's right.
You say, hey, you know what? This guy had a really promising freshman year. Then in his sophomore year, stats declined. He got a bigger NIL deal. Whatever the case is, these are just examples. But I think it kind of weeds out those who aren't as serious as the others. So it sucks that you got to pay for it. It's a price to pay, literally. But I guess that's the silver lining for it.
And to me, it's kind of a necessity. Well, it's not kind of. It is a necessity. Bottom line, it really is. College basketball programs, unfortunately, it is a necessity here in today's day and age of college basketball. More coming in. Adam at Adam SF News says, I trust Joe Golding. Recruiting for him may not be a slam dunk, but I trust his coaching and what he sees. Good win for UTEP and Joe Golding. This coming in from Robert Ukidi. How about an in or out on these Los Angeles Rams, Adrian? I'm in on Puka Nacua breaking that rookie receiving record, my friend. Sal and I will not be talking to each other after today's show until next week.
I already deleted your number.
Wait, do they play Saturday? I hope they don't play Saturday, right? I guess we don't have the wild card dates and times yet, but we do not have these. Sal, there are 2 Saturday games. I swear. If this is the Saturday NBC 2:30 game and we've got to talk Miner Talk afterward, it might be actually the best Miner Talk ever, like that has ever happened, because we'll have Detroit Rams, Lions Rams here, Goff versus Stafford. I want all of it. And Sal Montes.
Goff God. Oh my gosh. Best quarterbacks in NFL history.
I know, right? One Hall of Famer to another, right?
That's right.
Oh, man. What would happen there, Sal, if that ends up happening?
Oh man, say thank you for getting Stafford a Super Bowl, but you guys didn't beat the Seahawks last year like you had said you would, so you could give the Lions a playoff win. That'd be nice.
Okay, all right. I got you.
The Rams got to hold their end of the bargain. That's what I think it is.
Okay, it better not be a 2:30 kickoff. That's all I have to say, because Miners play at 4 o'clock at FIU, and we will be doing a combined Miner Talk / Rams Lions Talk after that game.
I'll just read stats. I won't even watch the game. I'll just say, oh yeah, I think they did good. I don't know. I was watching a football game.
We might not be able to watch it with each other. That's the other thing about it. We definitely are going to have to be in separate rooms. Let's go back to the phone lines right now. Johnny's been patiently waiting. 915-505-6009. Johnny, good afternoon. What's going on?
Good afternoon. And the callers today have been excellent, and you guys are doing a great job. Just some of my observations, want to reiterate, yes, something did happen after that California trip, and where you really saw it is the egg that they laid against Loyola Marymount. It just was a team that didn't come out to play, and so that was not the team that beat Cal. That was not the team that beat Santa Barbara. It was a different team. So And that to me, and I like Golding, but that's on the coach. You've got to get your players up after a disappointing loss. But there was certainly a big change on the team and the team dynamic after that. I also want to agree with the folks on Solomon. The guy probably has the highest ceiling out of all of the UTEP players, but the attitude's not there. The focus isn't there. The effort's not there. He's just a half-baked player. And if he was all in, the guy's ceiling is ultra high. He's just not all in. And Adrian, you brought out the stats about the turnovers and what the analytics say. He's better on the bench than he is on the court, unless he's fully bought in, and he's had a year and a half to fully buy in, and he's not. Other two questions that I have is the first couple of games, UTEP's leading the country in scoring, and Elijah Jones is at the top or near the top of the stat sheets, and then he disappears. I don't get that. And then finally, if you're going to hail Heb and bring Heb in and rah, can you have some set plays for him to shoot a three? So there's nothing set for him to shoot a three. And that really, to me, is the only value that he brings to the team is the ability for the outside shot. But I don't know what his stats for the year are, but he's maybe 2 for 10 somewhere in there. But certainly has not been a bona fide three-point threat. And so that's just my observations finally on the offense today. They finally started to go inside, drive inside, or pass it inside. But the last couple of games, it's just been passed around the perimeter and then find something to do within the last 5 seconds. And that's just not an offensive structure.
I agree with that.
The win, but still a lot of work on this team, and nothing new, but it's leadership. Someone's going to have to step up. Golding, quite frankly, is going to have to do a better job of motivating the players. And then if you're not going to be all in, your behind is going to be on the bench. And I think that, quite frankly, is what's happening to Solomon right now.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. And great stuff there, Johnny. To your point about Baylor Heb, he's 1 of 8 this season on 3-point attempts. 1 of 8, okay? And then he's on 2-point shots. He's 3 of 8. So he's made just a pair of those more than he's actually hit the 3-point shot, on the season right now. So that's kind of where they're at right here. Hey, let's keep things going. 915-505-6009. Actually, we're kind of winding down here on the show. Let's do this. Let's talk about our 2 awards here on the program. I'm gonna let our brain trust give it to us, guys, here on the show. So Sal, you'll do one. Maybe Sal and Alberto. You guys will power through the hot hand of the game, and then Zay, I'm gonna swing it over to you for our play. For our hot hand of the game. What did I say, Sal? Did I say you hot hand of the game, player of the game, Zay?
Yeah, we'll get hot hand, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I don't even know what I'm saying over here. I'm trying to watch this Rams game. Admittedly so. Zay, let's start off with you. Let's go with your first one. You give it to us. Player of the game tonight, presented by Timothy Cantrell.
Yeah, this one's tough. This one's tough because, you got really good guard play from guys like Jay Hardy, Corey Camper, Trey Horton, and David Terrell. But, for me, player of the game, I think even player of the season. So he's always giving it his all. It's Tay Hardy, the 6-year senior. He goes for 13 points, 4-9 shooting, 3 of 3 from 3-point range, 2 for 2 free throws, and he also added in a couple of assists and a couple of steals. So just an all-around great game from Tay Hardy.
Tay Hardy, our player of the game, brought to you by Timothy Cantrell. If you're looking to buy or sell your home here in El Paso, well, you can meet Timothy Cantrell, your trusted real estate agent with over 20 years of experience. With his vast knowledge, unwavering dedication, valuable resources, Timothy's here to make your real estate dreams come true. Timothy Cantrell, selling the dream, one property at a time. Check him out online on Instagram or Facebook at Timothy Cantrell Realty, or reach him at 915-204-8441 today to buy or sell your home with Timothy Cantrell. Sal, Alberto, you give us our hot hand of the game presented by Wind Supply El Paso.
Yeah, the hot hand of the game presented by Wind Supply El Paso. We were deliberating back here, and we ran through AI generated scenario maker, but it all came back the same. And without further ado, Alberto, who do we have for the Wind Supply hot hand of the game?
We picked Trey Horton.
Nice. I like it. A good 11-point performance by Trey Horton. First double-figure performance from him. First extended minutes for Trey Horton. Deservedly so on this one. Hot hand performance. Did it all in the first half. I loved what he gave to his team. Without his 11 points, UTEP loses this game, right? I mean, he actually was a significant contributor to this one. Sal, it's cool to see Trey Horton play in this game.
Yeah, it really is, because we've seen throughout the bad stretch how they tried heat check plays and it just wasn't working. And in a game where the other teams are daring you to shoot, night in, night out, he was able to kind of, answer the bill, so to speak. So I definitely got to go Trey Horton. We talked about how 3-point shooting is what they got to improve on, and he did incredible today.
Hey, big shout out to the great team at Wind Supply El Paso, Rene Tires, all the great team at Wind Supply El Paso. In fact, rely on their 50 years of service. You could choose a trustworthy HVAC system supplier in El Paso like Wind Supply El Paso. When it comes to choosing their HVAC system supplier, the choice is simple. Wind Supply has been providing high-quality furnace and air conditioning parts to contractors since 1956. Get started today by visit the Find a Dealer tab online at windsupplyelpaso.com. That's windsupplyelpaso.com. Guys, as we turn the page, look over to next week. It is FIU. It's a 4 o'clock tip-off local time. Florida International on the season. Again, Miners resuming their full stretch of conference play. No other non-conference games here ahead of them. They're 5-11, a really bad season right now under head coach Jeremy Ballard, and he's been with this program since 2019. Hasn't had too much success with Florida International, but this is a historically bad program. And, you look at all athletics, it's not great at all. But Florida International is the team that is on the docket coming up on Saturday. I expect UTEP to win. I mean, UTEP's got to beat them in this game. They've got the Aggies and the Miners this week. I'm talking about the Panthers. Miners have to get this win coming up on Saturday to show that they can get their first road win of the season. So get that monkey off their back, get this win on the road, beat a bad team like Florida International, who's 5-11 on the season. Let's see what the Miners can do. So until then, we'll talk to you on Sports Talk tomorrow. And, of course, we'll be back here on Saturday for another edition of Miner Talk, presented by the Oscar Arieta Agency. For Zay Galindo, for Alberto Reta, for Sal Montes, I'm Adrian Broadus, winding it up here and saying so long. Thanks for listening to Miner Talk, presented by the Oscar Arieta Agency, right here on 600 ESPN El Paso.